For over 20 years, I've listened to the stories women whisper in pain. Not the stories they post online. Not the polished versions they tell their friends over brunch. But the quiet ones. The ones told in low voices. The ones told at night. The ones told with shaking hands and tired eyes. Stories about love. About loss. About betrayal. And about the moment a woman finally wakes up and realizes something is very wrong. Here, we talk about relationships the way people usually don't. Not to judge. Not to shame. Not to decide who was right and who was wrong. But to understand. Because understanding is the moment power comes back. And today's story is about something most women are never taught, but almost all of them experience. It's about the difference between being the woman who needs a man and becoming the woman a man is afraid to lose. If you've ever felt yourself shrinking in a relationship, if you've ever loved harder while he pulled away, if you've ever wondered why your loyalty didn't protect you, stay with me. This story might feel uncomfortably familiar. Her name was Anna. She was 42, married for 14 years, 2 children, a life that looked stable from the outside. Anna was the kind of woman people described as good. Good wife. Good mother. Good partner. She remembered birthdays. She noticed moods. She adjusted herself constantly, quietly, to keep the relationship peaceful. And that was the problem. Because Anna believed love meant anticipating. Love meant accommodating. Love meant making sure he never felt uncomfortable, bored, criticized, or pressured. She didn't demand. She didn't fight. She didn't threaten. She waited. She adapted. She endured. And slowly, without realizing it, she disappeared. Not physically. Emotionally. Her world became smaller. Her voice softer. Her opinions filtered. Her desires postponed. All in the name of love. But love that requires you to abandon yourself isn't love. It's slow erasure. Anna told me the first moment she sensed something was wrong wasn't dramatic. No screaming. No obvious betrayal. It was a Tuesday night. She was sitting on the couch, talking about her day. He was on his phone. At one point she paused and asked, "Are you listening?" He didn't look up. "Not really." He said it casually, without cruelty, without apology. And in that moment, something inside her chest dropped. Because she realized something painful. She was no longer being chosen. She was simply there. Men don't always leave physically first. They leave emotionally. And when they do, the woman who needs them feels it in her bones. Long before she can explain it. Anna tried to fix it the only way she knew how. She became more attentive, more flexible, more understanding. She tried to be easier, softer, less demanding. She thought love was something you earned by being better. But here's the truth most women don't want to hear. The more a woman needs a man to feel secure, the less secure he feels with her. This part is uncomfortable. Because men don't pull away because a woman loves them. They pull away when love becomes dependency. When a man feels like he's responsible for your happiness, your identity, your emotional stability, something inside him shuts down. Not because he's evil, not because he's weak, but because desire needs freedom. And Anna had unknowingly turned him into her emotional center. His approval mattered too much. His mood dictated her peace. His attention became her oxygen. She never said it out loud, but her energy said it constantly. I need you. Men feel that. They may not articulate it, but they react to it. And when they do, women often mistake distance for a challenge and try even harder. That's when the spiral begins. When Anna discovered there was another woman, she expected a stereotype. Younger, flashy, irresponsible. But the truth was far more unsettling. The other woman wasn't better. She was freer. She didn't revolve around him. She didn't wait. She didn't organize her life around his availability. She had her own world. And men are deeply drawn to women who don't ask them to be the center of everything. Not because those women don't care, but because they care without disappearing. Anna asked the question women always ask. What does she have that I don't? And the answer hurt more than any betrayal. She had herself. Something happened not long after. Nothing dramatic. Anna stopped explaining herself. Not as a strategy. Not as a game. She was just tired. Tired of proving. Tired of waiting. Tired of bending. She signed up for a class she'd wanted to take for years. She started going on walks alone. She stopped checking her phone every 5 minutes. And something unexpected happened. He noticed. Not because she demanded attention, but because her energy changed. When a woman stops needing a man, the room feels different. Men sense it immediately. He asked her one night, "Where were you?" She answered calmly, "Out." And she didn't explain. That single moment did more than years of conversations ever had. Because for the first time in a long time, he felt uncertainty. And uncertainty is where desire wakes up. Anna didn't know it yet, but she had just crossed an invisible line. She was no longer the woman who needed him to feel whole. She was becoming something far more dangerous. A woman who remembered herself. And that's where the real story begins. Anna didn't announce her change. She didn't give speeches. She didn't threaten to leave. She didn't say, "I'm done." She simply stopped centering her life around being chosen. And that's the kind of shift that doesn't make noise, but it shakes everything. At first, it felt unnatural to her. Not checking her phone every few minutes. Not adjusting her schedule automatically. Not preparing explanations for where she'd been or why she felt the way she did. She wasn't becoming cold. She was becoming present. With herself. And presence is powerful. Here's the part most women don't expect. When you stop needing a man, there is a period of deep discomfort. Silence feels louder. Distance feels scarier. The urge to fix it comes back stronger than ever. Anna told me there were nights she sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded, heart racing, thinking, what if I lose him? But right behind that thought was another one, quieter but stronger. What if I lose myself again? That question changed everything. Because women don't stay stuck in unhealthy dynamics out of weakness. They stay because they're afraid of the empty space. That appears when they stop performing. But that space, that's where you rebuild. Here's something most relationship advice gets wrong. Men don't react to words. They react to energy shifts. Anna didn't say, "I'm changing." She didn't demand effort. She just stopped leaking her energy into places that weren't giving anything back. And suddenly, he started paying attention. He asked more questions. He lingered longer. He watched her when she wasn't looking. Not because she became mysterious, but because she became self-contained. A woman who is self-contained feels expensive. Not arrogant. Not dramatic. Just unavailable to be drained. And men instinctively respect what they can't easily access. One evening, he came home later than usual. Normally, Anna would have waited. Dinner warm. Mood adjusted. Questions prepared carefully to avoid tension. That night, she had already eaten. She was reading on the couch. Barefoot. Calm. He noticed immediately. "You already ate?" he asked. "Yes." No explanation. No apology. Just a fact. Something subtle tightened in his chest. Because for the first time, her life hadn't paused for him. Men feel that as loss. Not loss of control. Loss of relevance. And relevance is what keeps desire alive. There's a fear men don't talk about. They don't say it out loud. They barely admit it to themselves. It's not the fear of being alone. It's the fear of being optional. Anna was becoming optional to herself. And that terrified him. He asked questions he hadn't asked in years. "Are you happy lately? You seem different. Is something going on?" She didn't rush to reassure him. She answered honestly, calmly, "I'm feeling more like myself." That sentence carries more power than anger ever could. Because it doesn't accuse. It doesn't beg. It simply states a truth. And truth forces men to confront themselves. Something interesting happened during this time. The other woman, the one who once represented excitement and escape, started to feel irrelevant. Not because Anna fought her. Not because Anna competed. But because the emotional gap she once filled was closing. Men don't chase women. They chase states. And the state Anna was creating, calm, grounded, self-respecting, felt far more stable than the chaos of secrecy. Affairs rarely end because of guilt. They end because the emotional payoff disappears. When a woman at home stops draining a man and starts grounding herself, the fantasy loses its power. One night, weeks later, he asked something unexpected. "Do you still want to be with me?" Not angrily, not defensively, almost uncertain. And here's where Anna surprised even herself. She paused, not to punish him, not to create suspense. She paused because she was actually thinking. And then she said, "I want a relationship where I don't have to disappear to keep it." That was it. No accusations, no tears, no drama, just a boundary clearly spoken. Men respect boundaries they can feel. And for the first time, he realized something uncomfortable. She wasn't asking him to choose her anymore. She was choosing herself and inviting him to rise or fall accordingly. Here's the paradox. Men are deeply attracted to women who don't need them, but they're also terrified of losing them. Because need creates safety, choice creates risk, and risk is where men either step up or step away. Anna had unknowingly shifted the relationship from dependency to invitation, and that changes everything. The weeks that followed weren't dramatic. No grand declarations, no ultimatums, just a different rhythm. She spoke less, but said more. She listened, but didn't absorb responsibility for his emotions. She lived, without checking if it was allowed. And the more she stabilized herself, the more unstable he became. He started planning ahead, checking in, making space, not because she demanded it, but because men invest where they feel uncertainty. Anna thought this was the end of a story, that she had found balance, that things would slowly improve. But there was still one moment left, one conversation, one decision, a moment where she would have to choose between returning to the woman who needed him or fully stepping into the woman he could no longer control. And that moment, that's where everything finally broke, or finally healed. The moment came quietly, no shouting, no slam doors, no dramatic confession. It happened on an ordinary evening, the kind that usually passes unnoticed. They were sitting at the kitchen table. He was talking about work, about stress, about pressure, and suddenly he stopped and said, "I feel like I'm losing you." Years ago, Anna would have rushed to fix that feeling. She would have reassured him, promised more closeness, offered comfort at her own expense. But that woman was gone. She looked at him calmly and said, "You didn't start losing me when I pulled away. You started losing me when I disappeared trying to keep you." That sentence landed heavy, because it wasn't an attack. It was a truth. And truth changes the rules of a relationship. This is where many women break. Not because they're weak, but because this moment feels cruel. A man finally admits fear, vulnerability, loss, and everything in a woman wants to save him. But here's the hard truth. If you rescue a man from the consequences of losing you, you teach him he never really can. Anna didn't rescue him. She stayed present, open, but firm. She didn't promise forever. She promised honesty. He asked her something that night. That changed the direction of everything. "What do you need from me now?" Not, "How do I fix this?" Not, "Are you leaving?" But, "What do you need?" That question only comes when a man realizes control no longer works. Anna answered slowly, "I need a relationship where I don't have to earn love by shrinking myself." Silence followed, because that requirement is simple and terrifying. It demands growth. Something shifts when a woman truly chooses herself, not performatively, not as a threat, but internally. She stops negotiating her worth. She stops over-explaining. She stops asking permission to exist fully. And men feel that shift instantly. Some rise, some leave, but none remain unchanged. That's the risk. And the power. In Anna's case, he stayed, but not because she begged, not because she convinced him. He stayed because the relationship no longer felt safe to ignore. He began therapy, not at her request, on his own. He became more present, not perfectly, but genuinely. And Anna, She didn't cling to the outcome. Because the most important change had already happened. She was no longer afraid of losing him. Most women think the prison is a man. It's not. The prison is fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear of not being chosen. But here's the truth no one says out loud. When you're terrified of losing a man, you have already lost yourself. Anna didn't win because he stayed. She won because she was finally free either way. Let me tell you something important. Men don't fear losing women who sacrifice everything. They fear losing women who have a full inner world. Don't beg for attention. Don't threaten, but don't tolerate neglect. Stay open, but not empty. Love, but don't disappear. That woman doesn't chase. She chooses. And choice is power. If you recognize yourself in Anna, in the waiting, the adjusting, the quiet exhaustion, this isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that you're ready to wake up. You don't need to become colder. You don't need to become harder. You need to become whole. Never make a man your center. Not because men are bad, but because you are meant to be whole on your own. The moment you stop needing a man to feel complete, you become the woman he has to rise to meet. And if he can't, you still win. For over 20 years, I've listened to stories like this. Stories of women who loved deeply and lost themselves quietly. And stories of women who finally woke up and reclaimed their power. This channel exists for those moments. If this story resonated with you, if it put words to something you felt but never said, subscribe, because here, we talk about relationships the way people usually don't. Not to judge, not to shame, but to understand. And if you want more stories this powerful, make sure to subscribe, because the next one will be even stronger.